Hey, Nickie Brown here. No matter where you are and no matter what part of the world you are in, hope that you are having an amazing day. So, I came up here to talk about jobs and mm, a few other things, maybe. I don't know. I'm, I was thinking about a different topic, but then I'm also thinking about what's kind of at the core of that. So, I hear people say, especially older people, right? And then, of course, maybe their children or their grandchildren who may have heard them say this, right? Oh, there's plenty of jobs out there. So if somebody ain't getting no job, it's just because they don't want one. When the person could have put in a countless number of applications and never gotten any calls. How do I know? Because that has been happening to me for years, right? So in other people's mind, that means you just don't want it to happen. So one of the things that I did is start a business, right? I said, people have been going, if I'm going through this, right? I know that there are other people who are also going through this. So maybe I can prevent some people from going through this, right? Then when you have a business, and you didn't have like a certain amount of startup capital, in some people's situations, everybody's situation is different, but for me, not having a certain amount of startup capital, I wasn't really able to grow the business like I needed to. And so, trying different things with the business, using social media, um, I had studied clientele, and then, especially once COVID hit, that changed a lot, right? Um, but it still wasn't consistent enough to maintain a lifestyle, right? So I was working at the same time. Then I got injured at work, right? So now it's like, okay, at first I wasn't able to work because I was in too much pain. Then towards the end, I was like, okay, even though I'm in pain, maybe I can find something sitting down, like a receptionist job, just something to have, right? Again, countless number of applications. And I had one interview where someone referred me, and the owner of this particular business, and it was a receptionist position, she said she didn't want to hire me because I would be considered a liability, because clearly I wasn't able to walk at a certain pace. I was walking slow. I intentionally left my cane in the car because at that point I was still using my cane. I intentionally left that in the car, but still you could tell that the mobility was not there. And she said, well, sometimes we get packages from UPS or FedEx, and I'm concerned that, I don't want you to re-injure yourself. And I had another interview at a temp agency, pretty much the same thing. And I did walk in there with my cane, and again, they didn't want to hire me because I would be considered a liability. So, but in any event, I still kept applying. Now, when I say for years, I earned my bachelor's degree in 2010, and I've been doing my best to find something. Hello. Um, and at that point, I was in North Carolina. I don't know if you can hear the train going by. At that point, I was in North Carolina. It took a while, right? And then the only job I found was at not a temp agency. It was at a cable company, and they started me out with $12 an hour. I was hoping for at least 15, but again, that didn't happen, right? I was doing volunteer work, and um, I was working 3 jobs. I was doing 3 jobs at one time. One was volunteer, one was at the cable company, and the other one was I was a substitute teacher. And um, at the time, I had um, a '98 Honda Accord, and my transmission went. And that was actually the second time the transmission went. The first time I had the money to have the transmission rebuilt, but the second time I did not. And the car sat for months. Then I finally said, okay, I'm just going to put the car up for sale and give it up. Because I was trying to hold on to it, hoping that I got the money. But in the meantime, I wasn't able to go to work because in North Carolina, for the most part, you need a car. The job that I was working at was about 20, 30 minutes away at the cable company. The volunteer position was also about that far. And the school was only about 15 minutes away, but still 15 minutes on the highway. So I was pretty much without a car and without a way to get around. Even the bus stop, it took me 20 minutes to walk to the bus stop. And it took me a while because, again, I lived off of like not a highway, but a very major street with a lot of traffic, with no sidewalks. So it really wasn't conducive for walking. But anyway, after a few months, I was like, okay, let me start walking to the store. So there was a store not too far, a Sheets. So I started walking to Sheets, and again, the bus stop was at least another 10 minutes down the road. So one day I made the walk, and I was like, okay. And but being on the bus, first of all, I think the bus by my house didn't start. I think the first bus was maybe like 6 o'clock in the morning. So if I need to be somewhere, say by 8, I would have to leave by 5, right? So leaving by 6 meant there's no way I would have made it. And where the volunteer school was, because the school was also volunteer, where the school was in another, I was in Raleigh, the school was in Durham. So that would have taken me about 2.5, 3 hours to get there. So anyway, if there was some place I really needed to go, I would just jump on the bus and go ahead and go. And it took about 1.5 years before I got another car. So, during that time, I was applying for like work from home positions. The train is going by again. And as a matter of fact, I even moved back to New Jersey for 2 years, hoping that I could find a decent paying job up there. Nope. People were trying to help me, referring me. I remember one of my friends, and he has since transitioned. He was working for the transit system, and he tried to help me find a job. And as soon as I applied, went to orientation and everything, they put a hiring freeze on. So after being up there for 2 years, I just came on back to the South. I was like, okay, my money will go further in the South, and let me try my luck there. But again, people always say, oh, well, you have a degree, you should be able to find a job. Or, uh, whatchamacallit, if you haven't found a job, that means you don't want one. Or you should do this and you should do that. As if I have no idea of how to apply for a job or how to go about getting jobs, right? And that was when the recession was still pretty much in full bloom. And a lot of people were having the same problem. There were people who getting degrees, they were working at the mall or starting a cleaning business or doing anything that they could to make money. Even one lady, she was a lawyer, she went to law school. She started cleaning houses, right? So it was pretty much kind of, depending on what your major was, you had to either just accept whatever you could get or be without employment. So it's not that people aren't trying, whether they have a degree or not, whether they have a high school diploma or not. That's neither here nor there. People are applying for jobs, and because there are so many people in these databases who have also applied for jobs, they're not necessarily being called. If you have 4,000 people, say, let's just use that number, right, for example, the person that who applied, their name may never come up. They may have to go through the rotation, hires these people, see if they're going to stay. It's a high turnover rate. They don't stay. Then they call the next group or say 5 people, whatever. Even if it's 10 people, that's still a drop in the bucket in comparison to the 4,000 people. And then keep in mind, people are still constantly applying, right? I've changed my resume a countless number of times, tweaked it to this job and that job. They didn't call. So you can't make these companies call. You can't make them hire you. So it's not that people aren't making an effort or that they don't want a job. And it's really disheartening and a slap in the face to people who are actually trying and putting in the applications and hoping for a call or an interview, and it's just not happening. And then to add insult to injury, you tell people, oh, well, you should do this and you should do that. You just don't want no job. Really? And some people, they may argue back, but somebody like me, I'm not even going to say anything. I'm going to just let you think whatever you want to think, because I don't care what you think, because I know what I'm doing or have done, right? I've even paid for my resume to be done. Had another friend do my resume over for me for free. So, and I say that to say, like, it's not like I'm married to what I wrote on that paper, or I've even said, okay, how about we take my bachelor's degree off? How about we take my master's degree off? Still did not get those phone calls. Even temp agencies. And I remember a few years ago, and this was in, I think, 2013. I won't name the temp agency, but it's a pretty popular one. The recruiter sent me on an interview for a credit union, part-time job at a credit union, part-time. And I did great on the interview. And the hiring manager, who was a melanated woman, who interviewed me, she basically told the recruiter she didn't want to hire me because, number one, she didn't think that I would stay. And number two, she felt as if I would take her job because I have a master's degree and she does not. And that's why I didn't get hired. And so my whole thing is, so I can't eat because you're jealous? You're a manager already, and I would only be working part-time. Are you serious? So I can't eat. That's how I look at it. You're basically telling human beings, you can't eat here because I don't I don't like you, or you might take my job, or whatever the mindset is. And to me, that made absolutely no sense at all. So I want to talk about this, but then I kind of don't. I'm a very private person, and I know I've shared some things. And the people are like, "Oh, well, what are you doing?" or what do you have going on?" or whatever the case may be. And I'm the type of person who will help somebody out of the kindness of my heart without expecting anything in return, not even a thank you, right? Um, if you say thank you, great. If you want to help me back in return, that's fine too. Um, but for me, it's not about that. But I've noticed that a large majority of people, they're not helping you out of the kindness of their heart as a random act of kindness. They're expecting something in return. And so I don't like to ask people for anything. Um, well, and people say, you need to ask for help. How is anybody going to know that you need help? But then, too, there are those people who they'll help you just so that they can gossip about you and kick you back in. So there's a few different reasons why I don't like to ask for help. Or they'll help you so that they can manipulate you. And if you don't do what they want you to do, now all of a sudden they have an attitude. So did you help me from your heart, or you helped me because you want to be able to manipulate me later on? I'm mm-mm. And that's courtesy of mainly my relatives, right? So basically they trained me not to ask people. I'm not, I'll just do it myself, or I'll go without, right? And I guess some people can't understand that. And I guess that most people, if they don't have, they're going to ask somebody for it. But I know other people who, again, like me, they're just going to do without. Um, and they're not going to brown nose or kiss tail to get what they need or what they want. Um, so people say, "Oh, well, what have you been doing? I don't understand. What do you mean you were out on disability for over a year? How are you paying your bills?" An agency paid my bills. And when I did have the money, I paid them myself. Well, what are you doing? How are you getting food? Sometimes I don't eat, right? And people just they'll just sit there and look at you like, "I don't understand what you mean." First of all, I'm a private person. And for me to be sharing this is very vulnerable. And I don't like telling my business. So now you're asking me questions, and it's making me feel some kind of way. And I don't want to feel some kind of way, which is why I didn't say anything to begin with. Now you're asking me these questions, and I'm being as kind as I possibly can to answer them, right? And not that, and it's not about the questions, but when you start getting to the, "I don't understand." Well, how are you doing this? And how are you I just told you. And then people kind of imply, "Oh, well, I'll help you if you do ha ha ha." No, no, thank you. I appreciate your help. I appreciate you offering. But there was a time when the gas was off. The gas is off now. Cell phone was turned off a few times. And there were times where I have no food, right? So again, and I humbled myself, and I did get some assistance with food, but that didn't start happening until probably, I think, February or March. Um, but, I'm doing my best to get to where I need to be. But again, it's insulting for someone to say, oh, well, and the reason I'm bringing this up is because I was um, somewhere yesterday. I won't say where. I was somewhere yesterday and someone asked me about a particular job. And that was their person's comment. Oh, well, if somebody don't want no job in it. And a lot of people say if you don't want a job in Atlanta, which, again, just because there are a lot of jobs hiring in Atlanta does not mean these jobs are going to call you. And I hate when, oh, well, did you apply to so-and-so's job? Yes, I did. Well, what happened? Obviously, they didn't call. What do you, like, I don't know what more you want me to say. Because again, who wants to talk? Who wants to be kicked while they're down? You're asking me if I applied and I said yes. So if I applied and they didn't call, what can some, and I'm just talking about myself, but even if this is your relative, your friend, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, nobody wants you to kick them while they're down and to assume that they just don't want a job or that they're not trying hard enough because these jobs haven't called. There's nothing they can do about that. They can only do what they can do, which is to put in the application and wait. And even if you get an interview, so I started applying, even still in pain, right? In October, I started applying for jobs. Because that's when I officially made a change, right? So from October, this is now almost a year, right? So, but it all started in April of 2021. So April, May, a year and 4 months. I only started feeling better in June, right? So anyway, I have put in a countless number of applications from October until now. I had 2 interviews. And one of them really wasn't an interview. I filled out the application at the temp agency, went up there, and again, they looked at me with that cane, and they was like, yeah, we don't have nothing for you. And the other lady, like I said, she told me, oh, well, I'm afraid to hire you because I think you might be a liability. And so what I'm saying is for those people who have applied to jobs, don't be so hard on them. And if you're helping them or y'all live together or whatever, I understand that it can be challenging. But some people are doing the best that they can. And to make assumptions that they don't want this job, and some people want to start a business, but they might need the seed money to start this business by working somewhere else first. But to assume that they're just not trying or that they just don't want it, I think that's kind of mean. And I feel like that's kicking somebody when they're down because you don't know what their emotional state is. You don't know what's going on in their mind. You don't know what they're doing. You're just assuming. Have you actually had the conversation with this person? But not from oh, well, you need to do this and you need to do that, as if they don't know how to apply for a job. Oh, you need to put the keywords. Okay, I put 1 million different keywords on my application. Still, I did not get these phone calls that people think that I'm supposed to get because I have these degrees. So, like I said, there are times when I just say, okay, well, I have to go without until things turn around and I can do better. But in the meantime, and this is what I wanted to do the video about initially, in the meantime, you know, you pray or you meditate and you don't worry about it. Because the more you worry about it, the more it's going to continue to be true in your life. But if you do your best to stay low, if you do your best to stay motivated and in a more positive mindset, it'll usually turn around faster for you. I say my affirmations. I write down affirmations. Again, I meditate, and I just do my best to stay in a good frame of mind. Throughout the whole process. I know some people, maybe they would cry throughout the whole process. Or maybe they would just be sad and depressed. But why? That's not going to change anything. That's not going to fix the problem. Again, if you sink down into it, you're just manifesting more of it because you attract who you are and not what you want. Right? So being mad, that's not going to change it. Being sad is not going to change it. Taking your frustration out on people, drinking, smoking, sexing, whatever. None of those things is going to change the situation. But if you're a praying person, again, pray. If you're a meditating person, again, meditate. Focus on what you want and not on what you don't want. Right? And then, there are people who do black magic. Let them do whatever they're going to do. That's their karma. Right? Let them do whatever they're going to do, baby. I know some people don't believe in it, but people do it. And they be in that kitchen or in that bathroom or putting your name under candles, inside shoes, underneath shoes, and all kind of crazy foolishness. I don't do any of those things, but I am aware of some of the things that people do. I don't have a need to do that. Never have. First of all, half the people that's doing some of that stuff, they don't even know what they're doing. And then they wonder why the whole brick wall fall down on their head. And I don't mean literally, I mean figuratively. Because you can't go around bad-mouthing people, making assumptions about people, and treating people bad based off of your assumptions and you don't even know. Or because you feel like you want the lifestyle that this person has, or the mentality that this person has, or whatever it is that you feel like, you want to do or take away from them because they said this or they did this and you got hurt. Some people don't know how to communicate without cussing, yelling, or just being plain right, mean, and evil. Right? It's okay. And I often say this to people. It's okay for you to say, you hurt my feelings, or I didn't like what you said. If some people dishonor that, again, that is their karma. That is not your karma. But you still could share how you would feel. I wouldn't sit there and complain about it. Oh, well, they did this and that, and then keep talking about it over and over again. That's not healthy. And some people talk about it not only just over and over again, months, weeks, years at a time. You still talking about something that happened 50 years ago. When you going to let that go, boo? When you going to let that go? What difference does it make? In 2022, what happened in 19, I don't know, 1960s or 70s? What difference does it make? Why are you still talking about that? But we dishonor each other. And it may not be intentional. I get that. But nowadays, people really need a trade. But if people's money is not right, can't even, some of them can't even get in that mindset to go back to school and take a trade because they're thinking about bills or food or how they're going to take care of this, their kids or their car or whatever that thing is. So, no, you don't have to listen to me, that's fine. But I really just wanted to shed some light on certain things because people will mistreat and dishonor other people and then wonder why they don't want to ask for help or wonder why they would rather do without, wonder why they don't want to talk to you, wonder why they don't come to you with stuff because they feel like they can't. And then, the person that judges and criticizes and belittles this person and makes this person feel this big because things aren't working out is sitting there saying, oh, well, that person can talk to me. But no, they can't. You're not understanding and compassionate. You're mean. And you're telling them what they're supposed to do and how they're supposed to do it. There was a time, say, in the 50s and 60s, where you could go to a job and say, oh, I filled out an application and I would like to work here. And the manager might talk to you and build a rapport with you. And the next thing you know, you got this job, right? That was a time when most of the jobs you didn't even have to take a test. I like your personality, and on a handshake, you got the job. Times have changed. Again, you're competing with 10,000 people in a database, depending on what job. And if it's a good paying job, let's say MARTA or any other transit system, New Jersey Transit, New York Transit, Greyhound, whatever. They might have 10,000 people in the database who would like to work there. All 10,000 names aren't going to come up. In today's society, it seems like more about who you know. Does it work like that for everybody? No. But for a lot of people, yes. Oh, I know somebody who works in HR. I'll get them to pull up your application. And if you don't know anybody, then that might not happen like that. But, give people a chance. Everybody doesn't just want to not work, And this is sometimes why people resort to drinking or using drugs or some other addiction just as a way to cope. But anyway, I hope that was helpful. Love y'all. Later.